Welcome back to the Simple Farmhouse Life podcast. This week, I'm going to be doing the part 2 of the how to start a blog / work at home mom Q&A. I put up a question box on Instagram and answered half of the questions in episode 51. I got so many and I felt like this was getting crazy long. I decided to divide it into 2. So I'm going to dive into that. But first, if you have not yet grabbed my free email course on how to start a blog from scratch, you can grab that at bit.ly/startablogfromscratch. That's bit.ly/startablogfromscratch. My name is Lisa, mom of 6 and creator of the blog and YouTube channel Farmhouse on Boone. Join me as I share with you my love for creating a handmade home from scratch cooking and a little mom and entrepreneurial life along the way. All right, if you have not yet listened to episode 51 to get part 1 on this and the explanation of life as a full-time blogger, you can check that out. I'm going to just dive right in and answer more questions. Tips on time management / productivity. Also, how do you not run out of ideas? I talk more about the ideas thing in episode 51. I really think that if you get into blogging, you will find that one idea sparks 10 more. My sister says the same. She's also a blogger. There is this thing with getting started with anything, whether it is trying sourdough or cooking from scratch or starting a blog, making a course, writing a book. My sister and I were talking about this just the other day. There is something about getting started. So the other day, she started her first course. She'd never done a course before. And she uploaded her first class and she's like, now I got this. Like she just had to get started. But it was something looming over her head for like the past year. Or not year, maybe 6 months. Like she really wanted to start a course or do a course. The process just was like, oh, so overwhelming. I hate talking about it. Like I completely understand because everything that I've done in my business, it's felt the exact same way and in my life. So sewing, anything, starting is the hardest part. But once you do, it's like a snowball and it's the same thing with the ideas. Okay, I was interrupted by something. And I feel like I was about to make a good point, or at least one that felt important, but that is working at home with kids. So there's a good example. We did lunch and now the kids are down for naps. So I'm going to continue on in my Q&A. Okay, here's a loaded question. How do you make money? And this is something that varies so much from blogger to blogger, and each person can focus in different ways and make money in different ways. With blogging, it's a business, so there are a lot of ways you can take it. It's very individual and it's up to you and your niche. But let me give you some examples of how I make money and then some of my friends that I know and just some examples so that you understand it, because I know a lot of people are this world is very foreign to them. I still get the question a lot when people ask me, like, who pays you? How do you make money? So basically, with a blog, you are growing an audience of people. And with having an audience of people's attention, there are a lot of ways that can profit you. One would be by another company paying you for exposure for their product. So that would be sponsorships. So for example, a company that you really love, they might pay you a certain amount of money based on your demographics, based on your reach and your audience size, a certain amount of money for a blog post or a video or a combined rate for blog, Instagram, YouTube, or they might just want Instagram stories and it'll be a smaller rate. This is something that you really don't want to worry about in the beginning of blogging. You want to wait until you have a certain audience size. I know that me personally, when I first started blogging, about probably 6 months to 12 months in, people started offering me free products. And that would be the pay. So they would say, oh, I'll send you a couple of our pillow covers if you post about it on your Instagram or your blog. Of course, that sounded really exciting in the beginning, but over time, you realize how much time actually goes into shooting and editing and posting, and then also you give up a little bit whenever you promote too many products by just the level of trust that your audience has for you, especially if the products aren't genuine. So you want to be thoughtful about what sponsorships you take. And I'm at the point now where unless I was already planning to buy something, and as long as it's a high dollared item, or if they're not asking me for much, I pretty much will never accept a free product. Now, one exception is recently I was planning to buy a pasta maker attachment for my KitchenAid mixer. And it just happened that at that same time, a company reached out and offered to send me one. Normally, I wouldn't take a free product, but I was already planning to buy one. And I told them that I will take it, but I wasn't going to take special photos. All I was going to do was it would show up in my videos and I would link it down in the description box and people ask where the pasta maker came from. That seemed like a fair trade because I was going to already buy one and link it down in the description box. Now I just was able to have it given to me for free. So there's an exception. Normally I won't do any extra work for a free product anymore. So over time, sponsorships becomes a way. Now, some of my blogger friends earn a large majority of their income in this way. For me, it is my fourth highest pay. Another way to make money is through affiliate partnerships. It competes for the spot of 1 and 2 in my income strategy. So this is where you have products that you enjoy, and the company will give you a tracking link. So when you refer someone to that product by mentioning it in your YouTube video or your podcast or your Instagram story, if a person purchases from your special link, the company will pay you for referring them. It's just like a referral program, like when you refer your friends to a certain company and they give you a $10 credit. It's sort of like that. There are certain networks you can partner with, like Share a Sale and Commission Junction and Reward Style, and get several different links for different companies through there. And then some of my partnerships are more on a one-on-one basis. So for example, Cultures for Health reached out to me recently and asked if I wanted to be affiliate. They aren't with any of those other affiliate companies. They have their own. And I said yes. And then the other day they ran a big sale. And so I decided on the day that they ran a sale to quick jump on my YouTube, make a video of me making water kefir, and then refer them to the Cultures for Health sale. That was a quick way for me to turn a profit. And I was very upfront about that in my YouTube video, because that's another thing with blogging is you always want to be upfront, and you're actually required to do so from the FTC about what is making you money and what isn't. So I got on my YouTube and I said, hey, they're running an affiliate only sale today on Cultures for Health. Here's how you make water kefir. And if you purchase from my link, you'll get this % off. Upfront with my audience, but also giving them a really good deal because everything on the website was 30% off. I showed them how to make something. It's one of those win-win situations for everyone. And that was a really great way for me to make money. So affiliate partnerships, like I said, end up being the first and second. It competes with courses, a way for me to make income. Affiliates really on their own could be a full-time income for our family without the others. And that is the key to with blogging and having an internet business is to be really diversified. So the different components of our business, affiliates, sponsorships, ads, course sales, they all on their own could be support our family. But by adding more income streams, you make that more solid so that if one goes down, you don't have to worry that you're not going to make it that month. I wanted to jump back. I forgot to mention something on the sponsorships. Whenever you see a blogger that you know share a product, they have likely, if they're a successful blogger, turned down 10 for every one opportunity that they take and present to you. Bloggers get lots of people who want them to be talking about their product, of course, and it's really important to be selective. I have a few that I work with constantly, and I like their company, I like the products, and it's just a nice way to stand with the same company over and over again. It's better for them, and then it's also better for me because I know what they expect of me, and I also know that it's a company that I can stand behind. There are plenty that reach out to me and I'm like, I just don't think that's a fit with my audience. I mean, it's tempting, Because sometimes a company will say, I'll pay you this really high number for one video. And you think, I could literally do that in one day. But it's not a fit. It's not something that my audience will be interested. I won't be offering any value. I could actually diminish the trust that my audience has in what I refer them to by taking this deal, in which case I'm losing a lot more than the amount that they're paying. So that's something that bloggers really have to be mindful about. And I know I made mistakes in the beginning of accepting deals that now I think, okay, that was definitely not a good fit. And I've learned now to turn down quite a few of those offers. Okay, the other way is by offering a digital product. For me, that comes in the form of courses. I have a course where I teach people how to blog, and I have a course where I teach bloggers how to use video to grow their brand. This is probably my favorite way to make money on the internet because it's something that I spent a ton of time creating, but now all I have to do is market it, get it in front of people to want to buy, and then maintain the groups associated with it. I've seen people make money with digital products like ebooks, printable labels, courses, prints like art prints, digital music files, presets for photography. There's so many ways that you can develop something like an app and sell it over and over again. And that's digital products. That competes with affiliates as my number one and number two income stream, my courses. Another way that bloggers make money is through advertisements. So when you go on a blog and in between all of the content, you see ads popping up. A blogger gets paid for the certain number of impressions. So for every 1,000 people that ad is served to, a blogger might make like $10 or something like that. Same with YouTube. For every 1,000 people that view an ad at the beginning of the video, it's a video ad, of course, the blogger might earn $3 or $4. Those are just approximates. It totally depends on your niche. Some niches, the ads pay more. So people who are in the business niche, the ads that are served to those audiences, those advertisers pay more. So I don't know how deep to dive into this, but that is probably, depending on the year, my fourth highest pay would be from ads served to people who view my blog and view my channel. Another way is by writing a book or offering some kind of physical product. So when I first started blogging, I used the reach and the attention that I had to sell products from my Etsy shop. So I sold physical products that I actually sewed. Some people have t-shirts, merch, stickers, a book like I have. This has never been a hugely profitable thing for me. It involves a lot of work like shipping and customer service. Once you start figuring out how to make money in the more digital ways, this particular way isn't as appealing, but it's a really good way to start because it's something you can do right away. Like if you have a skill like sewing or candle making, you could build up a little audience of a couple thousand people on Instagram and then start marketing that product that you can make in your home and ship to them. It's a really good starter way. And I almost always recommend that people start that way. I didn't close down the sewing portion of my business to focus on the more digital aspects until after Luke came home. So it was when we moved to this house. And the reason I did that is because I didn't know how I would get employees in our new location to sew. It was still profitable, but I found that I was more confident in my ability to make money in other ways at this point, so I could let that portion of the business go. Now, those ways that I mentioned, affiliates, digital products, physical products, partnerships with brands, those are for like macro categories, but you can think of there being about 50 different ways within those that you can make money. So there can be like 50 to 100 different physical products you could think of. And then a same with digital. So many ways you could take that. My sister offers an ebook that she sells, and she also offers some labels that she sells. Me personally, I've never done that. I've only ever done courses. She's working on her first course. So it's just things that you'll try. Like when my sister first launched her ebook, she had it at a certain price. It didn't sell as well as she'd hoped. Then she adjusted the price and was experimenting around with that and with having other people promote it and paying them to do that. So I've told her before, because we talk about business a lot since we are both in business for ourselves. And she'll ask me a question and I'll say, here's the thing. There's never been another Laura owning a blog called Our Oily House and making it into a business. So there's no blueprint set out for you. And this is just being an entrepreneur. It's a lot of experimenting, trial and error. And so when she says, do you think this will work? I'll give my opinion on whether I think it'll work or not. But knowing that, there's no blueprint to follow. That's the fun part for people with the entrepreneurial spirit. That is the fun part. And it's just like, let's see, what do you have to lose trying it? That was a really long way to answer how you make money. But the point is that anytime you have someone's attention, you can market, and in a good way. Like, you want to offer value. And I always try with my blogging business to go way above on the value side before I ask much of people. And then there are some people who do more of the strategy of taking more partnerships and less of the blog tutorial type content. And there's more than one way to do it. When do you do all of your blog writing? Also, how much help do you have as far as employees? So this is something that's changed a lot. The first 2 years of my blog, or 2.5 years. Oh no, okay, sorry. 1.5 years, I did it 100% myself. About 1.5 years in, I brought someone in to help me with the sewing portion and creating Etsy listings and the physical product side. I was still doing all of the blogging, all of the photography, 100% myself. About 2 years, I brought in a few more people to help with sewing. About 3 years in, I really started adding to my team. First, I brought in someone to help with blog writing. This has been about 1 year now that I've had help with that. I delegated the same lovely employee who helped with sewing, who is editing this podcast. Hey. When I closed the sewing portion, I moved her over to video editing, posting to Facebook. Her role has changed a lot over the years, just as I've brought in new people with new tasks. She mostly focuses on video editing now. I also have someone that helps me with comments and questions and uploading videos to Facebook and posting to Facebook. And I recently brought on someone who proofreads all of my blog posts. So after they're up, she goes back through with a fine-tooth comb and helps me to make sure there's no mistakes, because I find that I miss things all the time. It's just good to have extra set of eyes. I hire someone to transcribe my YouTube videos. That's more on an as-needed basis. And then I recently brought on, for the first time ever, someone to help with creating more recipes, helping me do more keyword research, and even photography. So this is brand new. This is something I've never done before, but I'm excited to explore that and get even more hands into my blogging business. So it's been a really gradual process. I have a ton of help now, and pretty much my responsibility in the business is to come up with the content ideas for the most part. I do have someone helping a little bit with that now as well, but create the video and photography and ideas, and then it gets into the hands of all of my team members and it turns into the content that you see. How do you stay motivated to stay consistent? The best way for that for me is to have big goals that I'm reaching for. So my first big goal from the very beginning of my blog was to bring my husband home from work. That drove me like you wouldn't believe. Now at first, I'd say the first 6 months to a year, I didn't really believe it was possible. And so it didn't motivate me as much. The motivation during that time was more just learning something new, something exciting, growing my followers. That part was fun. But at a certain point, it just does become work. You might open your Instagram app to see 50 new subscribers and you don't get the same excitement that you first did whenever you started. But after that newness wore off, and I started seeing real results, I actually believed that I could bring him home. And once I believed that, I was able to use that as a motivation and work feverishly toward it. That's the phase that my sister's in currently with her blog. After that happened, my big goal was to buy a farmhouse and some acreage. I wanted to live in a spot where we'd have chickens and goats and huge garden, and basically just like a spot that my kids could play outside freely and be muddy. And I wanted to buy it with cash. That was the next big goal that motivated me. So after that one happened, currently it's just to maintain what I've built. And I probably need another really big goal, but I'm just in this spot right now of just maintaining the business that I built, getting out fresh new content every week. With having a team, I find myself more in the position of managing the whole thing and just keeping it going. It's basically just become a business that at this point I know how to run and maintain. So the way to stay consistent is to have goals. And even if the goal, which for 1 year for me in 2017, I believe it was, my goal for the whole year, I really wasn't sure what it would do, but it was to get out 2 new blog posts every week. And I said, I am going to do that no matter what. And that really helped me. How many posts a week are appropriate? I really love the 2 thing. That's just always what I've said. I know some bloggers do way more, some do way less. To me, 2 is very manageable, and it's also something that'll move the needle. Anything less, and you won't see that same momentum of building up traffic and people who are excited to read your content. There might be people who are checking back into your blog, and when they get there, they don't see anything new, and so they just begin to lose interest. So 2 seems like a magic number that'll keep people engaged and keep the growth happening. How do you do it all in a stressful season, like when you're pregnant or with a newborn? So I've mentioned this a lot, but I definitely don't do it all. I have a lot of help. I even in the last 6 months hired someone to come here every other week and clean the house. So of course we're doing tons of cleaning. I mean, we have to sweep the floor 50 times a day. But to not worry that my bathrooms are going to be literally nasty, I don't have to do that anymore. Every other week someone comes and does it. So that's a task I've delegated. And then also just at this point, I just recognize the season that I'm in with really small children. And I try really hard. So this is hard because I'm the personality type that feels good about a day when I look at how much I accomplish in that day. I have to work on this all the time. But I know that if I get out the content that's on the Trello board for the week, the portion of it that requires me and my attention isn't really that many hours in the week. It's really not. If I just get that done, I know that all is well with my business. And a lot of times I want to try something more, like make a new course or write a book. But I just remind myself that this business will keep going just fine if I just get done what's on that Trello board, and it's so manageable. So I try to just be really realistic with what I can accomplish right now and not beat myself up for what I can't. Suggestions on where to start when outsourcing home or work-related tasks as a work-at-home mom. My biggest suggestion is just to do it one at a time. This would sound so overwhelming to figure all of this out, but it's really just come one at a time. I remember about 6 months ago, I was watching a show on YouTube or Netflix or something, and the advertisement, no, it was Hulu, because I think that's the only place I see advertisements. But an advertisement popped up for care.com, and it said that it's not just for babysitting. It's for house cleaning too. And I literally got on care.com right then and there and reached out or put out a job listing and hired someone to come and clean our house. Another thing is I've become more realistic with jobs that we totally could do ourselves. Like for example, any minute now here around, 13 minutes from now, 2 p.m., someone's supposed to show up to look at insulation for our attic. And I know how easy that job is. My cousin told me all you have to do is rent this little machine, put the insulation in the hopper and blow it in. It's no big deal. But that same day, I could record a podcast or a blog post that I have learned from experience will yield me new eyeballs, more revenue, and will move the needle for my business. And so those are a lot of things we've been hiring out as we weigh out the cost benefit type of thing. So with our kitchen, I talked about this in one of my episodes where we spent the money that we spent on our kitchen. The amount that we spent on it sounds crazy. And 2 or 3 years ago, that would have just been so foolish and wasteful to me. But now I see it as an investment in my business. And I realize that all the time I didn't spend working on this kitchen, I spent building a business that yields more than that. So I've really been able to see the benefit, even though it could look like wasted money, and just do it one at a time as budget allows, investing back in my business. I listen to a lot of business type people on YouTube and podcasts. I love business, and so that's interesting to me. And over, I find that that is where people really move ahead, is they invest back in what they're doing for their business and take risks. And that is foreign for me. I don't like risk and I don't like wasting money. But every time I've done things like that, it's ended up paying off for me. And I say every time, there have been a few things that I feel like I've wasted money on, but that was a learning experience and all part of doing this. Ooh, this is a good one. And probably something I would have never thought about. This person must be a blogger before doing this, but long-term organization / storage of digital content, photos, videos, etc. I go over this, my whole system completely in my Video for Bloggers course, but I keep everything on a hard drive and then I back it up on another hard drive. I have filled up oodles of terabytes of hard drives at this point. So yes, that is a big thing and something that you probably wouldn't think of. Where do you keep all of this stuff? Because every single day I'm creating these huge files with video content and high-res photos, and I have definitely been caught not storing them properly in the beginning and getting asked for high-res photos from magazine companies and not having them. That has happened to me more than once, so I've gotten way better with my storage systems. When do you wake up / go to sleep? I am actually a little bit lazier than people think I am. I can just tell from the questions people ask me. I wake up when Daniel wakes me up and not a minute sooner. And I go to bed when he lets me go to bed / when I get done watching a few shows on Netflix. I used to work my business until late in the night, the wee hours of the night, but I'm definitely past the honeymoon phase of my business or the exciting part of it. I mean, it's still always exciting, especially when I think of something new to do. But for the most part, I'm past that part where I could stay up to all hours of the night because I'm going to see this move forward. I'm more in that content, running it stage. And so, yeah, I take off at night and I don't stay up super late working on my business or wake up early to do it. Do you ever get overwhelmed? Yes. And when I get overwhelmed, I always know what's causing it. It happens whenever I don't focus on what the tasks for the week are. So like I told you, I have at the beginning of the week what I need to accomplish that week. The load might not actually be that big or that overwhelming or impressive, but if I get those things done, we're good. The business will go forward. What happens is sometimes I decide to add 55,000 things on top of that, and that's when I get overwhelmed. So if I can keep myself in this focused state of this is what I'm doing this week, this is what I need to accomplish, and nothing more, life feels pretty easy, pretty laid back. But as my husband will tell you, he thinks I actually enjoy stress, which I don't, but I do have the personality that tends to want to reach for more, and that is when I can get overwhelmed. But what actually is required of me isn't that bad. It's only when I add on extra. And I am sometimes able to stay in that place of not getting overwhelmed. And then sometimes I totally can't and have to rein it in again. Wanting to begin, but not sure how to start. What to do for that first go at it. I recommend my free email course, or if the full-blown course has everything you need to get started, but the free email course I mentioned at the beginning. How do you manage to combine working with 6 kids and a garden and a house? This is something that I really have been wanting to talk about. I love following along with the homesteader bloggers who have the most beautiful, French cottage gardens, and there's this part of me that wants to go all in on it. It's so pretty. They seem to grow all of their food for the whole year, and I love it. But then there's the part of me that realizes that I cannot do that and run a business and have 6 kids under the age of 11. Maybe some moms can, I can't. That is when I start to shut down. So I have to prioritize a little bit. So our garden, as much as I want to be this completely self-sufficient person who is canning all of my tomatoes for the rest of the year, is good. It's producing what it should at this time of year, but it isn't going to produce the food for the year. I'm going to be left buying food come October at the grocery store. Heaven forbid. So the way that I do it all in quotes is by A, getting a lot of help, and by B, not really doing it all. So I am not growing our food for the year. Let's just put it like that. I'm not. I milk my little goat in the morning and get a quart of milk. I pick up the rest of the milk for the week at the milk pickup. I grow tomatoes and we eat them on our little sandwich. And then I buy the rest of my tomatoes for the year canned in an organic pasta sauce from Aldi. That's just the reality. So you definitely have to pick what you're going to focus on. And the people that I have compared myself to and felt inadequate in front of, they're not doing some of the things that I enjoy doing more. They're focused on that. And I sometimes, and I'm sure some of you too, fall into the trap of wanting to be all of them. Like I want to be this person when it comes to gardening, but I want to be this person when it comes to sewing. And I want to be this person when it comes to business. And I want to be this mom when it comes to homeschooling. And all of those people were just focusing on that one thing. The point is that you have to figure out what is your priority and realize that you definitely can't be all of those people. So I have my mediocre garden and find myself focusing more on the kids and the blog business and letting some of the rest of it not be as perfect. Do you ever get discouraged if your number of viewers flatlines for a while? I try really hard not to look at analytics, and some of my blogger friends give me trouble for this because they're really into it. And I have just felt this way for a long time, that if I look at certain things, I can get discouraged. And so I try to just not look. Now, of course, to an extent, you want to see what content does better so that you can make more of it. But there are certain metrics that I would rather just not check in with. Maybe like on a video by video basis, but certain things I like to just bury my head in the sand. For an example, I will not read my book reviews on Amazon. And someone told me that before I published my book, they said, "Oh, you say that now, but just wait till that book comes out." I won't. I will never look. One time I was on there and it recommended my book, and I was like about to click on it, and I'm like, I'm not doing it. I cannot take it. And so I happened to see that there were a couple of 1-star reviews on it, but I won't read them. I just won't. So if you're so kind and you left me a 5-star review, I mean, thank you from the bottom of my heart, but I will never see it. I really appreciate it though. I heard a recommendation recently from someone on a different podcast talking about business, that if you are like this, because I do not have a thick skin, I can't stand criticism. I mean, it's just like, it's bad. I can stand a nice conversation where I feel like somebody who cares about me is telling me something constructive. I can take that. But like the random internet haters, I cannot take them. So someone said that you should hire someone to go through your comments and make sure that those aren't seen by you. And that's what I do. So I make sure that as best as possible. And sometimes I can't avoid it because sometimes it comes in an email or a DM and I accidentally see it. But I try my hardest to never see the bad ones, because trust me, I get them. And I take it so personally. Same with podcast reviews. I haven't hired anybody to filter through those yet. And I've definitely read some doozies that I'm like, oh, thanks a lot. That really hurt. But I have read all those, so I will see those. But yeah, you have to protect yourself, guard your heart on that one. How do you stay consistent while during tough times like moving, houses, illness, etc.? I pretty much just told myself that I have to at least do 2 blog posts a week no matter what. And that has been hard during certain times, like moving, for example. I had to go all kinds of places to find an internet connection while we were trying to transition into this house, get the internet set up. I thought I had it all set up, and then the guy was like, no, it'll be another 3 weeks because it snowed. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't have internet for that long. So I had to go find it places. I've been pregnant. I've been newborn stage. From day one, I've treated it like a job. And so no matter what, you have to go to your job. I mean, of course, you get sick days, but you pretty much have to plan for those. Like if you have kids, you have to get childcare or something like that. When I treat it like a job, it's not really an option of getting 2 posts up per week. How do you explain your job to your kids? I mean, my kids understand the job because they are here all the time. So they know most of it, what this job is. They see me making the recipes. They see me typing away at the computer. I talk about it a lot in front of my husband. And so they're, of course, here. It's an interesting job for sure, but I'd say they have a better grasp on my job than most kids just because they are around it so much. Are all the courses you offer updated to today's fast-changing social media? I just did a major update to my course. I did several new videos, 2020 updates to my courses because, yeah, things have changed. That does happen quite a bit. How much of a learning curve is editing a video? Not as much as you think. I know that I didn't start video for a long time because I thought that. And then it's just like anything. Once you get started on it and you do it for a week or two, it's like, how was I dreading this so bad in my head? This was not bad. And that is definitely how video editing is, and pretty much all of blogging. It's a big learning curve when you keep coming across new things that you have to learn. But if you stick with it, eventually it just all becomes second nature. And what used to be hard to me isn't. So now, thinking back to the years too that I was doing just 2 blog posts a week, no video, nothing else, I honestly wonder how that was so hard for me, because now that would not sound hard to me. But at the time it was so hard. It felt like a near impossible goal that I set for myself. I mean, not near impossible. It felt doable, but it felt very stretching. How do you get started with podcasts? That's actually easier than I thought it would be too. Another thing that I put off for an entire year of thinking about. I literally just sit here in front of my microphone, record it, and then I drag it into the same editing software that I use for video, and then I just export it as an audio only file as opposed to video. That's it. So I already had all the gear. All I had to do was upload it, and I use an app called Anchor. I haven't looked much into that or if I should do something else. I just started it. And so maybe one day I'll learn more about podcasting. But for now, it's been a really easy thing to add. I don't have to put on makeup. I can just sit here at nap and talk to the camera. And Q&As actually make it a lot easier. What are your tips on staying concentrated on what you're doing while babies are noisy? Well, you all know if you listen to my earlier podcast episodes before Daniel napped that I just had the noisy baby in the podcast. There's only so much you can do. And if you have a goal, like I had a goal in the beginning of this podcast to do 2 episodes every week. I've definitely failed a few weeks on that, but I've at least gotten out 1. Sometimes that meant the only way I was going to get a podcast out was with a little bit of a fussy baby or a loudly snoring baby in my podcast. And I've definitely embraced the whole done is better than perfect mentality completely. That is the theme and the anthem of my blogging business is done is better than perfect. I'm not going to think about this too much. I'm not going to doubt myself too much. I'm just going to put it out there, and the critiques will happen, but I try to not see them. Okay, I will only answer a few more because again, this is getting long. When did you really start to make money with the blog? How long did it take? The first year, I didn't make any money. I started making around $500 a month after the first year. By 2 years, I was making enough that my husband quit his job at 2.5 years. So that's when I would say it was serious money, in quotes there, because it was able to support our family of 7 at the time. And that was 2.5 years in. But that was 2.5 years of really being pretty underpaid. And then after a while, after getting over that hump, I felt very overpaid. Is it possible to be a full-time blogger and full-time worker outside the home? I believe that it is possible to build a blog while working outside the home, just because I know that I built my blog when I was home with 4 kids, which to me was definitely a full-time job. I just had to fit it in the margins. It did help that I had nap time. If I was going to be a full-time worker, I would have to block out like Saturdays and Sundays, which I don't enjoy doing, but I would definitely have had to do that. Get a whole bunch of posts photographed during the day and then spend the rest of the week editing and putting everything together and writing in the evenings, because you'll have the daylight issue. But if you were really organized, you could get it all shot for the week, or if you're really organized, for 2 weeks on one Saturday. If you have all your supplies ready, if you're doing recipes or if you're doing tutorials, you could do it all on a Saturday and then piece it together with the editing of the photos and the videos or whatever you're doing, writing throughout the week. Do you have one-on-one time with kids? I answered this one a little bit already, but do you ever feel mom guilt for being distracted? Again, you have to block it so that you aren't distracted when it's supposed to be kid time. And trust me, we have a lot of like kid/family time because there's just so much time that goes into just being a family, cooking, eating, doing chores outside. So if you're diligent with only working in the time blocks you've designated, this won't happen. And I don't think you have to feel guilty for doing something a few hours a day that the kids have to entertain themselves. That is not something that you should have to feel guilty for. Your kids can entertain themselves for at least a few hours of the day. Okay, this is the last one I'll answer. I saw this one whenever I opened this and I just instantly felt sad. Someone said, struggling to see fulfillment in just being a stay-at-home mom. Any long-term goal ideas? Okay, first of all, there is no such thing as being just a stay-at-home mom. I know for a fact, and my husband can attest to this, when he came home from his job, after being at his job for 13 years, when he came into my 5-kid home madness, he was like, how did you do this? Like, how did you have lunch on the table every day and do the laundry and just keep this house going? I just cannot even understand it. So being a stay-at-home mom isn't at all a just. And it is a wonderful calling, and I believe that so much to be so. And it's a wonderful thing for mothers to do. I just think that it is a calling. It is not a just. Some moms are antsy. I don't know what the word is, not antsy. Luke calls it nervous. Some personality types are just energetic. That might be the right word. And I and my sister, we both fall into this category. So for us, we started a business while home with kids because it's just something we wanted to do. It is never something that anyone else should feel like they should do. And in some families, it might even be something that your spouse would rather you not do. So you have to know your own personality, and everyone is so different. I know for me, there was always a little bit of guilt associated with wanting to start a business. I'm not bored, but almost, I guess in a way, I was a little bit bored. I just have a lot of energy and dreams and passions, and I wanted to express that through a blog. But I think I'm just wired that way. And I know a lot of women who are wired that way. And I know in my personal life, there are women who are not wired that way. And it would just be dreadful for them to add anything on top of raising their kids, and it would add stress to their family, and it would add stress to their husband. And if that is the case with you, I wouldn't recommend starting a blog. But if you feel like you have a couple extra hours in the day that you would like to put a passion into something, it could be a good fit for you. But it should never be something that feels like a stress. I don't know how to describe it, but something that's really been apparent to me in the last couple years more than ever is just, I know this is obvious, but it's just how different people are wired so differently. And you can't compare what you do to others. So for me, I legitimately felt bad that I wanted to do more whenever I started my blog, because I saw some moms who just seem to be more content building blocks on the floor with their kids throughout the day. And I liked reading to my kids and taking my kids on a walk, but then I still had this extra energy in the afternoon or late at night that I just wanted to make, sew something or work on the computer and build a website. It's just something that I wanted to do. And my sister, she was the same way. And I remember her feeling almost depressed after she had it. I forget which child it was. Maybe I could have her on sometime to talk about the story. That'd be really smart. She was, for lack of a better word, bored. And she wanted to get together and hang out every single day. I'm sure if she's listening, she's laughing. And I was like, Laura, you're bored. Why don't you start a blog? And I started giving her a few ideas, and it totally transformed how she felt about being at home. She felt a renewed sense of energy for her family. She didn't feel like she needed to be out of the house all day, because before she wanted to. She wanted to meet at the park. She wanted to walk around Walmart, just something to not be bored. And this helped her to put her creativity to something. And so all of that to say, don't feel at all like just a stay-at-home mom. I don't like that. I don't think anybody should feel that way. But if also, on the other side of the coin, if you're feeling bad because you want to do something else as well as being a stay-at-home mom while home, I have personally found some freedom in that endeavor. And I know others who have, and I know others who haven't. So we're all different. All right. Well, I hope that I answered some questions about blogging, that if you are interested in starting a blog or just super curious about how it all works behind the scenes, how this whole thing plays out, I hope that that gave you some good answers on that. And if you have any more questions, send them my way. I could always do a part 3 if I didn't cover it enough. Make sure if you are interested in starting your own blog to get my free 10-day course, you can grab that at bit.ly/startablogfromscratch. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode of the Simple Farmhouse Life podcast.